So good evening, everyone. It's good to have you here. Tonight, I'm going to talk about the Buddhist principle of impermanence. Now, impermanence, or the idea of impermanence, isn't unique to Buddhism. In our very own culture, we have the saying, nothing lasts forever. In ancient Greece, there was a philosopher, and whose name escapes me at the moment, who said, you cannot step into the same river twice. And so this idea of impermanence, of things flowing and being ever changing, is part of what Buddhism calls marks of existence or characteristics of this universe. So from the Buddhist definition, impermanence means all temporal things, so all things that are subject to time, whether they may be material or mental, are compounded objects in a continuous change of condition, subject to decline and decay. So anything that is bound by time will change and is prone to decline and decay, and is typically made up of multiple things. And all those things that it makes up this element or that thing, that thought, are themselves impermanent and also changing. And we see examples of impermanence every day, every moment. Your own body, none of the cells that are making up your body right now were part of your original body when you were born. And so the body depends on the organ, or depends on the part of your body, but will replace the cells periodically over many years. So some will replace the cells pretty quickly, within 24 hours. Other parts of your body, the cells are replaced like every 7 years. But nothing in you right now are the same cells that were with you 10 years ago and 20 years ago. And so you yourself are an example of impermanence. And how you think now is very different from how you believed and thought a year ago. A lot has happened. And so there's an example of how your mind and your beliefs are impermanent and constantly changing. And fighting that impermanence, trying to hold on to something as permanent, leads to suffering. So if you bring up to mind a recent loss, the stronger you held on to the idea that this thing that you lost was permanent, the stronger that you held to the belief that you would not lose this person or place or object or situation or event, then the more you suffered. But the more realistic you were about the impermanence of that object, and the less you suffered. In fact, coming to terms with loss, a part of that is understanding the impermanent nature of that thing that you lost. Now, it's at this point that typically the discussion on impermanence will focus on death, will focus on aging and illness. And I've done that in the past, and will probably do so in future talks of impermanence. But today I want to take it a different route and talk about how impermanence, or the principle of impermanence, that things do not last, how that principle can be used to increase a sense of gratitude and increase happiness within our lives. Now, there are two things in psychology or research on happiness. So psychologists have done quite a bit of research on happiness over the last two decades, 3 decades. We started focusing more on positive aspects of emotions, or really focusing on positive aspects of positive elements of emotions. And there are two things that interrupt or are obstacles to happiness. Okay. And from the psychological perspective, one of them, and there are several, but I'm only want to focus on two of them. One is called reference points, and the other one is called anhedonic adaptation. And I'll define each of those. So reference point, reference points. Our mind, our human brain, has a tendency to arbitrarily pick a reference point, a point that we refer to or compare to. And very often we have no good reason for picking that particular reference point. Let me give you some examples. Beauty. In our society, we have a definition of what is beauty. And we may pinpoint to certain movie stars or models as being beautiful. But we also in our culture have beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And so the reference point that you choose for what defines beauty can create discomfort or stress. Let me give you an example of a research study I did in undergrad. I partnered up with some people in my Psychology 101 class. And we decided to do two studies together, and one influencing the other. In one study, I told the individuals that I wanted them to rate. Actually, we had one of my partners, she put together pictures of models and asked individuals passing by our student center to rate the beauty of these models. And the other study was, we asked individuals to rate self-image, all right, or their perception of themselves. And what we did is, for half of the people in the study, we gave them the rate the model first, and then we gave them the how do you feel about yourself. And then on the other half, we flipped it around. Half of them got how do you feel about yourself, and then we had them rate the models. And even in that small study, we found a huge effect. If you showed individuals pictures of models first, and then asked them to rate themselves, they consistently rated themselves lower than the group that did not get the picture of the models first. We artificially set a reference point for these individuals, and that reference point caused them to diminish or caused a decline in their self-image. We do this when we look through Facebook and we see people on vacation, or we see people traveling to exotic places in the world, or we see people buying that new toy, new car. We arbitrarily reference our self-image to them. And that even though in our rational mind, we know that people only, they curate what the image that they put on social media. It's not a complete picture of their full life. But all we see may be those pictures, especially now during COVID when we're inside. And so we have this tendency to think that we're missing out. Everyone else is enjoying the world. Everyone is enjoying vacations. Everyone else is doing these great things and I'm not. So that develops a reference point that is increasing our suffering. So those are reference points. They typically are unhealthy. This is what we call the keeping up with the Joneses, all right? So these reference points typically become obstacles to our happiness. The second one The second obstacle I'm going to talk about today is called anhedonic adaptation. Anhedonia is sort of the seeking of pleasure, all right? And we tend to adapt, our bodies adapt to the pleasure that an object or an event brings us. Think about that new gadget, that new car, the new clothes, anything you just bought new, and the excitement you feel when you first get it. But then a day, a week, a month later, it does not bring you the same pleasure. So that's anhedonic adaptation. It's the same object. It has not changed much, but we no longer derive the same level of pleasure of when we first had it. Let me see if there's anything else to say about that. This is why the seeking out of pleasures as a means of trying to achieve happiness doesn't work. And so this is why when we see people that we think have it all, have all the money, have all the nice cars, all the nice clothes, get to all the nice vacations, and then we hear that they've committed suicide or have substance abuse issues. What happened is that often these individuals equated pleasure with happiness, and they're not the same thing. We adapt to pleasure. We don't adapt to an internal joy and happiness. And that's what we're trying to achieve through Buddhism, that internal joy and peace and satisfaction. So how does the teachings of impermanence help us with these obstacles to happiness, with reference points and hedonic adaptation? First of all, the first thing to do is to simply remind yourself it's not going to last. All right. So when you set up a realistic expectation that this pleasure or this comparison that you're making is not going to last, or that that individual's vacation is not going to last, or that individual's or your new clothes are not going to last, you set yourself up to be more realistic about expectations. That also has then an effect of increasing another element that helps us with happiness called savoring. So when you are mindful that something's not going to last, you become more present, you become more focused on the here and now, and you really take it in and you relish it. Okay? And so having that knowledge, having that impermanence, that characteristic constantly in the back of your mind, helps you to more, to savor more those moments of happiness and pleasure, to drink them in more deeply, and to really appreciate them more. And it increases gratitude. If you keep in mind the teaching of impermanence, then you also get the realistic perspective that if I do not remind myself that this will not last, I will set myself up to be constantly chasing the next fad or the next trend. So when we are, I see my kids changing which games they're playing. And so right now, for a while, the game was Pokemon. And so Pokemon was everything to them. And there was nothing better than Pokemon, and Pokemon this, Pokemon that. Now they've moved down to Roblox, right? And so that if you had a trend, if you're chasing a trend, chasing a fad, but you don't keep in mind that this will not last, then it can lead to more suffering once that dissatisfaction and that need to always jump on the next fad train or the next trend. Now, there are a few other things that we can do that will help with savoring and gratitude. One of them is to re-experience what it is to not have it, and it being that thing that's bringing you pleasure or happiness. Okay? I'll give you an example. I like to go camping. I like to go out there, but when I come home, I appreciate more air conditioning and shelter, not smelling like smoke from the fire, right? And although those are all elements of camping and I enjoy and I seek them out, the added benefit to me is that I'm more appreciative of having a home, having a shelter. I am more mindful that there are people around the world who don't have that there are homeless in my own city who do not have that. And so re-experiencing not having it can be very helpful in helping you to be more appreciative of what you have and to really savor. Just this last weekend, my family and I did a no tech day. And so no iPads, no cell phones, no computers, no television, I don't want to say the name of the Echo device because I don't want it to say, what do you want now? We just did away with all of them for 24 hours. And it really, not only did it help me enjoy more when I was able to access information through my phone, but it really helped me appreciate, you know what, I waste a lot of time and I was able to do other fun things that I have been putting off because I'm involved in a game or reading news over and over again. So doing without, re-experiencing what it's like to not have what you enjoy will rekindle your appreciation for something. All right. This is what happens when spouses separate because one travels for work, and when they come back, they might have a renewed sense of appreciation for each other. They miss each other. And so you're experiencing the not having. Now, if you can't re-experience the not having, the next thing is to sort of visualize it. And so you can do what's called negative visualization. What would it be like if you no longer had it? Okay. Or visualizing if you had never had it to begin with. And so you kind of learn, reappreciate again having whatever it is you have. And you can do this not only, it doesn't have to be with just, oh, what would it be like if I didn't have my Mercedes Benz? No, it can also be things like, what would it be like if I didn't have air conditioning? What would it be like if I didn't have heating, which many of us experienced recently? And so that remembering and re-experiencing or visualizing that can help one appreciate what one has right now. You can throw it also into the future and visualize what happens if I were to lose it tomorrow. And really think about what would happen if I lost this tomorrow. It increases then your enjoyment of it right now. All right, so those are ways of using impermanence, using the fact that things will not last, that you will not have those things forever, can help increase appreciation. For those of you who do not have children, this might be some good advice. And for those of you who have had children, this will ring a bell. As I was raising little ones, parents of older kids always advised me enjoy it because they grow up fast. So they're asking me, be mindful of the impermanence of this childhood because it won't last. And I'm glad I got that advice. And so, for example, one of the ways that it helped me was as little kids, my kids would hold my hand. And almost every time they held my hand, I would think to myself, they're not going to hold my hand forever. At one point, they're going to grow up and they're going to want to hold my hand anymore. And so when I reminded myself that this is impermanent, it helped me really savor the moment and the feel of holding my child's hand in my hand. And now that they're grown up and too big to be holding my hand, I do miss it a little, but I don't feel a strong sense of loss because I felt like I truly savored those moments. I truly worked at being present in those moments because I knew it would not last forever. Right? So being mindful of knowing that you are going to lose something from loved ones, whether it be through death or whether it be because they grow up or mature in different ways, can really help you savor those moments and enjoy them more. Let's see. Now, each of those things, sort of using mindful impermanence, can help you be more appreciative and savor more of those moments. But impermanence also helps you be more grateful. And gratitude is something that is very much associated with happiness. And so being grateful is key to, I think it's key to enlightenment. You are more grateful for what you have. Think about the instructions I gave earlier about the breath. When I am mindful that I might get COVID, when I am mindful that there are people who are taking their last breath or suffering from COVID and cannot breathe right now, that is a visualization of the impermanence of my health, and it helps me be more grateful for the breath I'm taking right now. So you can cultivate this gratitude for what you have, even things as simple as your breath, which we tend to take for granted. Other things that you can do to increase gratitude and therefore increase your happiness. You will often hear in college students being asked to keep a gratitude journal in their Psych 101 class. And so this is basically, at the end of the day, you write down on a journal 3 things you're grateful for, and you cannot repeat any of the things. So you always have to come up with 3 new things to be grateful for every day. And you do this journal of gratitude journal for about a month. I would say 99% of the students who do this report an increase in happiness and an increase in gratitude, because you're cultivating that gratitude on a regular basis. Another way that I recommend that you try to cultivate greater gratitude is maybe set a gratitude alarm or 2 every day. And so when that alarm goes off, you pause and you think of one thing to be grateful for. And what happens is that over time, your mindset starts to just be constantly on the lookout for things to be grateful for. And inevitably, because of the way our human mind is designed, that constant scanning for things to be grateful for will increase your happiness. You will become a happier, more positive individual. Good. I'll leave it at that. The idea here is that although many of us, when we think of impermanence, we think of loss and we think of death or illness or decay, because those are teachings that are also important when discussing impermanence, especially Buddhist impermanence. I have found that one of the reasons Buddhists aren't, really downers and people horrible to be around is because the people who truly practice Buddhism are happier and more grateful. And impermanence, or the understanding of impermanence, helps to increase that happiness and gratitude in our lives. I challenge you to increase gratitude. I challenge you to think about how things won't last and what it would be like if you lost it tomorrow. Right? What would it be like if you lost your life tomorrow? And these things will help increase your gratitude and your overall happiness. Good. I'll just open it up to any comments or questions, any thoughts, whatever you want to talk about.
And there's a Cat Stevens song, a really good one I like, and part of the lyrics are, let's see, how does it go? I cried because I had no shoes, and then I met a man who had no feet. So you talk about a frame of reference, right? And then the second thing was, I really loved your story about the hand holding heading into HEB, because I went through the same thing with my youngest. And then when I was reflecting on it, I was thinking about that transition time. It's like there was hand holding all the time before, and later no hand holding. It was in that middle part where sometimes, and I wouldn't try to force it, we just walk. So I'll be walking, I wonder if I'm gonna get the hand today. But I was able to let it go, because it was gradual. It wasn't like one day it's like, Dad, I'm too big to hold your hand anymore. So I like that story.
Thank you, Leon. Anyone else? Maybe moments when your practice in impermanence helped you be happy or grateful.
Hi, Alex. Hello.
Yes, go for it.
Hi, this is Min. So I was thinking about when you were talking about gratitude. I recently had gotten the COVID vaccination and didn't think too much of it. Got the shot, and as I was leaving, I became a little bit emotional, and I thought about all the people that wanted the vaccination, and maybe it just didn't come in time for them. And I was very, very grateful in that moment that I was able to get that.
Really good example. Great example. Thank you, Min. Very relevant.
Thank you.
Here's a question that might be nice to discuss. Can you think of other examples of reference points, things that we're constantly referring to or comparing either ourselves or life to?
Grades.
For those of you who didn't hear that he said grades. Oh, that is so true. That is, we our self-worth is so tied into these letters. And then once you leave school and you're in the workforce, those letters don't matter anymore.
Mhm.
It's funny because I have like kind of the opposite of that because I'm a teacher and there's a fellow teacher who's always doing so much and so good work with like creating PowerPoints and like questions. And so it's funny that you said that because recently I've been like, man, that one teacher, she puts in the work, man. I need to step up my game. And yeah.
That's a good example. And I should have mentioned that too, that sometimes reference points can help us insofar as the reference point is helping us achieve our fullest potential, then that's a good thing. We are meeting our purpose and our meaning in life, right? The universe made us, or everything came together to make this being, this organization with all our flaws and all our gifts. And I think the only thing the universe is asking of us is to reach our fullest potential, or our best potential. So insofar as that comparison helps us achieve that best potential, it's a good thing. The moment the reference point prevents us from achieving our best potential, then it's time to let go of that reference point. As a child, I looked up to my father. As an adult, I see my father as someone who had flaws and gifts. As a teenager, when I was a teenager, he had nothing but flaws, right? And as an adult, I have more appreciation. And as a father now, even greater appreciation. But it helped me to have my father as a reference point. But at some point, as I grew up older, I became old enough, I needed to find other reference points because I wasn't my dad. Okay, so there's an example of when a reference point can be helpful, help me reach my better potential. But at some point you have to let it go.
I think for me, as I've been shedding some of my reference points that I don't find useful, it has made people around me uncomfortable. And I feel like sometimes they're trying to push those reference points back on me.
I
And
like that.
it's just kind of an interesting, mostly like I think of my mom. It's very uncomfortable for her and a few friends, but that's kind of because I've been on this journey trying to figure out why do I care about these certain things? And I have found as I let those go, because they're not serving me anymore, it's made other people just pause and kind of question my journey and where I'm going. And I think it threatens it feels like it threatens our relationship with them, although I don't believe it does. But that's just my thought.
Oh, it's a wonderful insight. I hadn't even
But
considered that point, and that's
yeah,
really true. That's wonderful. Leon, do you have something to add?
just going to say that's, the attachments, that's those feelings, those ideas are attachments as well. But I was thinking the point, we're talking about these reference points that seem to be fixed and in which we judge everything in relation to. There's no such thing as a relationship or a point that's permanent anyway. So they are also impermanent, right? It's only good for a quick reference, because once you make that judgment or value, judge it, everything's changed again. So the next time you measure, it's going to be different anyway, right? So
Very good points. Oh, I like that. Patty, Leon, I'm definitely going to be taking that into meditation and thinking about that some more. So thanks for those points.
Yeah, the other thing that just kept blasting my mind as you were talking is I have this beautiful spiritual friend who has, to me, a lot of great attributes. And I just went through this journey with her second plastic surgery. And in my heart, I'm thinking, my God, you're so beautiful. Stop doing this to yourself. And the surgery went horribly. And it was kind of the only person to take care of her because her children are all out of state. And I was just like, to bring yourself to this brink of illness. I mean, it was god awful. And like to where she was bleeding for months and we couldn't get anything to stop. And I was thinking, at what point did this beautiful soul feel like she had to do this? For what reason? And I know she's single and I know that's a different aspect, but it just made my heart so sad because I mean, she glows with spirituality and just beauty. And I'm not sure, it just makes me very, very sad. I don't know. But that was the other thing, the reference points, some of them can be so detrimental to your health, to your psychological health, everything. And I think those are the ones that got to go.
I agree. I think going back again, use a reference points insofar as they help you reach your potential. But the moment that they start creating distress or excessive distress, then it's time to consider letting them go. We all hold, well, I won't say we all, but I hold the Buddha as a reference point. But I know that there are times when I must, as one author put it, kill the Buddha. And so my image of the Buddha becomes a reference point, and that image is imperfect. And so I have to let go of that image in order to make room for a deeper understanding. So we have to be mindful that even our beliefs about Buddhism or any religion are just our understanding of that religion or that belief system, and therefore imperfect and impermanent. And we have to be ready to let go of them to make room for wisdom.
I think that's probably one of the hardest things for me, because as a teacher and a good student all my life, I want to find the right answer. And I can't find the right answer. It's always like, no, none of this is making sense. It's shaking everything up, and there's no right answer.
There is the right answer for the moment.
Yeah.
That's impermanent.
And that slips away. And I'm like grasping at it,
Yeah. Well, keep doing it. I think we all do that at some point in our spiritual journey, and we do it multiple times in our spiritual journeys, and somehow we survive it. So keep moving forward. Same for all of you. Keep moving forward on your spiritual journey, on your personal journeys. Thank you for allowing me to share a little bit in that time today. And let's go ahead and just quickly share the merits. I'll ring the bell and then we'll head on out. May any merit that we have accrued during this time together, sharing in mindfulness, sharing in the Dharma, may it bring us and those around us health, happiness, safety, and peace.
Have a
Thank
great
you for
week,
being here
everyone.
today.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.